welcome to my new blog post 11. And in this blog post, I'm going to discuss about the data independence. So let's start. So when we talk about the data independence, we actually talk about a database system which normally contains a lot of data in addition to the user's data. For example, it stores data about the data known as metadata to locate, retrieve data easily. It's rather difficult to modify or update a set of metadata once it is actually stored into the database. But as DBMS expands, it needs to change over time to satisfy the requirements of the users. If the entire data is actually independent, it would becomes a tedious and highly complex job. So data independence is basically categorized into two types: logical data independence and physical data independence. So let us discuss both of them one by one. So when we talk about the logical data independence, it applies on the logical schema. So when I mean like when we talk about the logical data independence, it means logical data is actually the data about the database. Actually, it is the metadata. It actually stores the information about how data is actually going to be managed inside the database. For example, a table relation stored in the database and all its constraints and applied that are going to be applied on that relation. Logical data independence is kind of mechanism which basically liberalizes itself from actual data stored on the disk. So if we do some changes on the table format, it should not change the data residing on the disk. uh, on the so you can say like logical data basically logical data independence refers characteristics of being able to change the conceptual schema without having to change the external schema. uh, Also, this independence is used to separate the external level from the conceptual view. So if you do any change in the conceptual view of the data, then the user view of the data would not be affected. And logical data independence occurs at the user interface level. In comparison to the logical data independence, we have physical data independence, which actually applies on the physical schema. So what does that mean? It means like all the schemas that are actually logical and the actual data is actually stored in a bit format on the disk, hard disk. Physical data independence is the power to change the physical data without impacting the schema or logical data. For example, in case we want to change or upgrade the storage system itself, suppose we want to replace a hard disk with SSD, it should not have any impact on the logical data or schemas, right? So it means like physical data independence can be defined as the capacity to change the internal schema without having to change the conceptual schema. If we do any changes in the storage size of the database system server, then the conceptual structure of the database will not be affected. Physical data independence is basically used to separate the conceptual levels from the internal levels. Physical data independence occurs at the logical interface level. So hopefully you have got the point about the database independence.